Hi, Elisabeth. You are one of the 40 lawyers from Sweden who are behind the petition that you presented today, this morning, or your colleague Ruby did. What are the worst cases that you've come across in your practice?
The worst and most shocking case was my first case, where my client's 5.5 months baby boy was taken by, it says in the official papers, the National Guard, and shock grenades were used to force the mother to leave the child to the social services. She has not yet seen her child since 3 years now, at all. That's my worst case.
Yeah. Do you remember the reason that they pretended for taking the child? Did they bother to give a reason?
Yes, they did actually. She had been with, she had had a husband who was a drug addict. He was in a home for drug addicts, and he became white. Herself, she had been a drug addict, but long before, like 6 years before she met this man. She got also religious, of the evangelical faith, and she totally dropped her drug addiction, and she got her driving license back, and she got her regular job, and she was working with that until she got her first 2 children with this man. At the point he was white, he had come out from a home for drug addicts and had been also white.
White, you mean clean?
Yeah, I mean clean.
Of
Yeah,
drugs.
he was clean of drugs. But actually he fell back into it, but she didn't. And so she asked for help from the social care.
So as far as you're concerned, there was no valid reason for taking that child?
Yeah, actually, because there were nothing from the daycare center of worries or anything. We had a long investigation of me and another lawyer of taking all kinds of formal information from doctors and about her, and she was totally clean. She had been it for more than 5 years, and there was nothing on her at the point. The problem was that she had chosen the wrong father for her children in the point of view of the social care services.
And the other case that you said was so terrible?
Yeah, this was, I followed a trial in the court where the ambassadors of Malaysia's 4 children were taken custody, and they were coming to Sweden from Malaysia. They worked at the embassy, but not on the territory of the embassy. That's why the police could come and take their 4 children, as there was another territory that was freed from our law jurisdiction.
Yes.
The reason in that case was that the mother and the father actually was using a spanking as a means to get their children to do their homework, as was the custom in Malaysia, in the culture they came from. But as it is totally forbidden in Sweden since 30 years, more than 30 years now, you cannot even spank a child once until you can get a worry information from a neighbor or from someone, and there can be nothing on the child physically, but still there is this huge, it's a gap also between information for people coming to Sweden and the actual situation. So people coming to our country can be very much surprised to meet the police and those social workers in their living room once they are watching television or having a Friday night dinner. And it's not unusual even. Many cases like that I have had. But in this ambassador family's case, our foreign minister, Carl Bildt at that time, intervened on a diplomatic level so he could take the children out of Sweden. He could order that so the children got back to Malaysia, to relatives, but the parents was in prison. I think the father was like 6 months in prison and the mother 9 months or a little bit more in Swedish prison.
And the whole of Sweden thought that was fine, that
Yeah.
was okay, and that was correct, and
Yeah.
it was right to punish the parents.
Yeah, because they had broken the law, actually. I mean, so actually I was on a hearing at the university with the president of the same organization as I belong to, NKMR, and there was an investigation how much this law has been helping Swedish people to be better persons or better parents. And actually what they said, the professor of the university who had made this investigation said that there was 5%, it sounds very high rate actually, but of children that got abused in some way before the law was implemented in Sweden. And after more than 30 years, at the point we were at the university, it was 30 years that it had been implemented in Swedish law. It was still 5% of the children that got abused.
So the law didn't make a difference?
No, it has just served as to teach Swedish people to behave in another way than we did before, that we are not to touch our children in that way.
And to put non-Swedish people who are used to doing it into prison?
Well, that's a consequence. Maybe they didn't foresee that, the people who made the law, actually.
That was not intended or
No,
was not the purpose?
No, it wasn't.
No, you think there were good intentions behind the law?
Yeah, it was to help this 5% actually of the children who was maybe abused actually, but we already had laws for that. So in that way, the laws we had before
were good enough.
Yeah, that's what some old lawyers say. Professor Emeritus, we have been spoken to, has said so, and many others too, that we had that law already for abuse. But yeah.
Relating to the current petition that you submitted, what motivated you to come on to Brussels, to travel and to present your petition? What is the big message?
Well, as a lawyer, I see a huge gap between the way social services proceed in a child-taking case and what the law says about protecting the family values, Article 8 in the European Convention. And as Sweden was very late, 1994, we took in the EK, European Convention, in our law system. The courts are very slow also to really use the judgments, the verdicts from the European courts, from Strasbourg. We have already many cases, but it's maybe a small opening now that the courts are opening up for this verdict from the on the European basis. But in law school we learned that of course they should be used, but the court system is very conservative and think we already have the right values. Even an old president in the Swedish higher court, Hirschfeldt, has said this, that we have been minimizing the values from European courts and using it very little in the court system. So that's very hard for the parents who get rid of a child on very shallow grounds to get back their child. If it's taken, it is like it's taken.
For good, forever.
Yeah, it's very hard. You see him or her when on her 18th birthday. because then the LVU is up. You cannot hold a child more. Sometimes actually they can, but...
And can you anticipate or envisage how the European Parliament could make a difference via your Swedish MEPs, for example?
We wanted today for an investigation of Sweden, of different cases, or that we should be investigated, our system should be investigated, how it works.
So ideally, you would like MEPs to visit Sweden just as they have visited Denmark and Germany and recently London already. So if they all came to Sweden, then you feel your mission would be accomplished.
Yes, that's what really we want.
Bravo. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Sabine.
Very good to meet you in Brussels.
Very good to meet you too.